Good afternoon, my dearest and darling viewer and vieweresses. What you see before you is a disgustingly filthy car. And I, your humble narrator and your host for this little YouTube clip entitled Washing the Car, I'm sure, or some damn thing like that. Who cares? Nobody's gonna watch it, right? I thought I would make a video while sponging the car. Now, thing is, everyone drives around dirty cars in the winter. My dearest viewer, it just takes about 20 minutes, I guess, for you to sponge your car. It might take me a bit longer, just because I'm talking to you. I hope the light's good, and I'm wondering about whether I should talk about CarLos Castaneda or not. My original CarLos Castaneda movie, which may or may not be online at this point in time, turned out to be totally upside down, which kind of threw me for a loop because, I'm assuming this one is the right side up. When you're making these films, you've got your screen, obviously, and then usually what happens is you'll see the numbers at the top, the time that has elapsed. And if you see the numbers on the bottom upside down, then you know it's upside down. But I don't know, I'm having iPhone to Samsung transition issues as well as many other issues in life. Okay, so CarLos Castaneda, right? So here's the thing. I just want to recap very quickly. He was a student of anthropology at the University of California, Los Angeles, BerkeLey campus, obviously. UCLA, by the way, is huge. It's huge. They've got like 300,000 students or some crazy thing like that. I used to sell to those folks in software. I mean, they're a huge organization, just huge. I mean, they're a really good school, right? And so, they've got campuses all up and down the coast there and whatnot, and a lot of famous people who've gone to UCLA, such as Mr. Castaneda. So that much is fact, my dear viewer. He did go to UCLA. What is uncertain is the existence of his so-called mentor, his so-called teacher, his so-called, guru that he met, Don Juan Matus. Now, Don Juan, when you say Don Juan to somebody, people usually think of Don Juan Quixote, Quixote. You know that crazy guy? Cervantes, Don Miguel Cervantes wrote this book, I think. You got this crazy guy who's on a horse and he's battling windmills. Very interesting thing is that one of my favorite directors, Terry Gilliam, he was one of the original Monty Python crew, and he did the artwork for those guys. And then he went off and he did things like Baron von Munchausen and Brazil. And things like really awesome, like that could be qualified as mainstream blockbuster type movies, such as 12 Monkeys. 12 Monkeys could have been his break into mainstreamdom, but for the fact that he's like me, he's an oddball. He's still to this day. It might have gotten better just recently, but to this day, the Zero Theorem was the last one he did, and I believe I saw Mongrel on there. This film company, a production company called Mongrel, which is relatively mainstream. But for the most part in his career, he had to struggle to make film after film after film. After releasing all of these, avant-garde or whatever the hell you want to call them, movies, the poor guy had to struggle and struggle and struggle. And just to get financing. In the movie business, it's really, really hard. You have to obviously get financing. Now, you got a bit of tough grime on the back. Don't worry. Just bring the pail around and just put water on it. So I'm hoping that my dad comes out. This is my dad's car. I'm not really much of a car person anymore, to be honest with you. It's a damn box. You sit inside of it, and it's the same thing day in, day out. Obviously, it's more uncomfortable walking about, but you achieve so much more by walking about than driving about, my dear viewer, if you have the right frame of mind. If you're walking about thinking, shit, I wish I had a car, well, that's not going to work, is it? So just soak it with water, and look, let the water do the job for you. There you go. Clean, 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 right? And what difference does it make? It makes a huge difference, especially in the winter. People think you have a garage and you're a privileged one or something. I don't give a damn about any of that stuff. I'm just saying it looks nice. And inna Allaha jameel wa yuhibbul jamal. God is beautiful and loves beauty. Now, I know I'm going off on plenty of tangents.
right? What this means to me is that CarLos Castaneda is something I really should talk about. You know, to me, it's like the harder something is to do, the more imperative it is that you do it, dear viewer. So basically, the whole thing with Don means sir, okay? Juan is John. It's the name John. Don Juan means Sir John, all right? Something like that. And the CarLos Castaneda's Don Juan is not the same Don Juan, obviously, that we see battling windmills and stuff like that. And Terry Gilliam, by the way, tried to make that movie, and it had Johnny Depp in it, and they even started making it. And then it was a disaster. It was a disaster. They had like budget problems. They had horrible weather in the desert, things falling apart, just all this crazy, spooky stuff. And then they actually made a documentary about the unmaking of that movie, in the sense that they weren't able to make it. And you actually see Johnny Depp at some point on this little donkey that they put him on, and he was shooting his scenes and all this stuff, but they couldn't finish the movie, right? So interesting. Something Fu Manchu, like The Curse of Fu Manchu. They made this documentary called The Curse of Fu Manchu. Okay, so CarLos Castaneda, he's an anthropology student. That much is fact. And he ended up writing a series of best-selling novels. That much is fact. About 10 novels, starting with the teachings of Don Juan, including things like Journey to Ixtlan, Tales of Power, The Fire Within, The Power of Silence, The Art of Dreaming, The Eagle's Gift, The Second Ring of Power, finishing up with the active side of infinity. And there's a couple more here and there in the mix. But those are the majority of his books. So he did write those best-selling books. He was considered the father of the New Age. He does to this day, I believe, some of his folks are still out there, and they may be teaching what they call tensegrity, which is a combination of tension and integrity. And they're basically like, it's like Tai Chi type of exercises. So all of this is fact. The only thing that remains inconclusive in many people's minds is the existence of Don Juan. Did he actually exist, or did Castaneda make him up? Well, here's the thing. My dear viewer, it really does not matter. It simply does not matter. Now, on the other hand, for example, as a Muslim, someone might say, well, the Quran was made up by Prophet Muhammad. Well, if Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his family made up the Quran, considering the fact that he was illiterate, that in itself is interesting. But I just say read it. And then if you want to go further, find out about the family of Prophet Muhammad. Read up on their books and their prayers and their teachings. And the words speak for themselves, right? Now, as far as Don Juan's concerned, my whole thing is this. What Castaneda says in his books is so far beyond what anyone has ever written about such things. I mean, there's been plenty of people who've copied him afterwards. There's a guy called Miguel Ruiz, I think. He wrote The Four Agreements. And that's based on Castaneda stuff. And then there's other people that have come forward claiming to be either pupils of his or some such thing, or co-peers, or that they were taught by other sorcerers of Don Juan's lineage and stuff like that. Amy Wallace, who's the daughter of the famous author Irving Wallace, she wrote a book about her life with Castaneda, and she basically slagged him big time. You know, what's funny is that when you read the book, as a Castaneda fan, when I read the book, it just adds to my admiration of him. And but she makes him out to be some kind of misogynist monster and all this kind of stuff. I don't know what to say, but it's like Imam Ali, peace be upon him. You know, Shia people, we revere and we follow Imam Ali, peace be upon him. He was the son-in-law of Prophet Muhammad, married to his daughter, the Lady Fatima, the peace and blessings of Allah be upon them both and upon them all. He was also the cousin of Prophet Muhammad. And Shia simply means follower. And we're called Shiani Ali ibn Abi Talib, the Shias of Ali, the son of Abu Talib, I guess, or Shiani Ali, simply, because after the Holy Prophet passed away, we listened to his, we basically followed his instruction that after me, Ali is essentially my successor. You should follow Ali after me. And the majority of Sunnis basically went off and they chose to follow elected caliphs who by default were enemies of Imam Ali because they had taken his right. And so that is the root of the basically the fight between Shias and Sunnis. Now, here's my thing with Don Juan. You know what, on the one hand, I don't care if he lived or not, but I suspect he did. The reason is because what Castaneda says is so far beyond what anyone else has said about anything remotely similar. So basically, it's like Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his family said, let me just make sure this damn thing is still recording. 10 minutes. So it does not look good. Now you can see the difference. Looks like a brand new car. And over here, and we just done this in 10 minutes. And if I wasn't talking to you and wasting so much energy, talking is takes a lot of energy, dear viewer. If I wasn't doing this, I mean, you just come out with a hose and go spray. And you'll be like, oh, what if it freezes? Oh, more power to you if it freezes. It's going to protect your car from dirt and all this kind of stuff. And you'll be like, what about the paint? I'll tell you what about the paint, dear viewer. Wax your car at least once a season. Turtle wax or whatever this thing's called, right? It's hard. It's not easy. You basically have to wash the car, wipe it down, and then you got to put the wax on all the way around. And you'll see the wax on the car. Then you let it dry. And then you wipe it off. It takes about, it could take a couple of hours, but trust me, if you do that just once a year, your car it will always have this amazing gleam to it. It just simply will not weather. It's amazing stuff. It simply will not weather. And the thing is, professionals who have cars and races and all these people who need to make sure their cars look nice, they use that stuff. And, that's why it's out there, right? So all I'm saying is that, there's no reason to be dirty and all this kind of stuff. What happens a lot of times with us is that as Muslims, we're more interested in what's called, you might call it purity as opposed to cleanliness. So we want to make sure that, our clothes are clean or in terms of being pure so that we can pray. Purity meaning that there's no, feces or urine or something like that on them. Even for a man, to basically to have semen on something semen is impure, believe it or not. So I'm saying these things, and we have a saying which is that there's no shame in religion. So I don't mind talking about any of this stuff or anything else that comes up. So Castaneda, there you go. That's a quick intro to him. Is he out there? No, he passed away in 1994. Is Don Juan or anyone from Don Juan's lineage out there? Well, there are plenty of people that claim to be students of Don Juan's or students of Castaneda's or co-peers. I mean, I read this thing called The Art of Navigation by some guy called Felix. And you read this book and this guy lives this dream life, basically just following his intuition everywhere. And, oh my God, 13 minutes, that's not too bad. So what was I going to say as a finalmente of Castaneda? Well, here's the thing. Prophet Muhammad said, peace be upon him and his family, that every truth has a proof. Or rather, yeah, he said every truth has a proof, but rather the one I'm aiming for is, he said that everything has a foundation, right? That's what he said. Everything has a foundation. And the foundation of Islam is loving us, the Ahlul Bayt, the people of the house. Ali, Muhammad, Fatima, Hassan and Hussein, and the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him and his family. So once again, Fatima was his daughter, Ali was her husband, and Hassan and Hussein were her children. Right, so the centerpiece of it all is Fatima, by the way. And that's why I always say that women are superior in Islam. Ask any Shia person, and when you talk to them about Fatima, they'll say, yes, it's all about Fatima. In any case, I got to get on the roof here, folks. I try and keep these things under 15 minutes. The key to Castaneda is being impeccable. Being impeccable means doing the best you can at every point in your life, and understanding, taking, as per the book, Journey to EXiST, taking death as your advisor, the same thing that Islam teaches. Being impeccable in your actions and in your thoughts and in your motivations. And what happens is you begin to increase your power. You begin to increase what you might call in Islam your faith. So I'm going to leave it at there, dear viewer. Thank you for tuning in. Sorry for being such an asshole. And see you later. I'm not going to ask you for comments because I never get any. In fact, don't you dare leave a damn comment. Don't you even think about it. Just scroll on and be happy. See you next time.